We're going to call the meeting to order of the Walker Planning Commission. First order of business is a review of the minutes of the meetings from February 19 as well as May 21. Any comments, questions? They look pretty good.
I make a motion to approve both minutes.
Okay, motion by Scott,
I'll support that.
supported by Pat, to approve the minutes for the February 19 and May 21 meetings. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We've got two items on the agenda, but at this point, it's a general public comment opportunity. So if you have some comments concerning something other than these two projects, please step forward and share with us your thoughts. Otherwise, if you're here for any one of the two projects, there'll be, both are public hearings, so there'll be opportunity to talk then. So no takers at this point in time? All right, thank you. At this point then, we'll go on to the agenda items and have Paula Preby, Planning Director, introduce the first project.
Thank you, Chair. I will pull my report up on the screen. First, where we are here, we're talking about the final component of the Waterford Village PUD. So in the north section of the property, zoned RPUD 1 is a plat, Waterford Reserve plat. It is approximately 29 acres of land, and it has gone through many steps already before this meeting today. So it was the original PAASP was approved back before I was here with Walker. So I believe it was 2021 when that was originally approved. The Planning Commission in December of 2023 approved the final area site plan and made a recommendation on the tentative preliminary plat, which is the process by which the land will be divided into the 52 lots. That was approved by the City Commission in January of 2024. Since then, the applicant has been to the Kent County Plat Board and also got preliminary approval from the Kent County Drain Commissioner, both of which are required in the platting process. And they're back tonight for the final preliminary plat. So here is just a little graphic outlining the process of platting. So this was done in 23 and early 24. We're here at final preliminary plat stage, and this is the last time that this project will come to the Planning Commission. This is the final review of this proposed plat. It is a recommendation tonight to the City Commission and from the Planning Commission. So after this project will go to the City Commission for final approval. And then the applicant will move on to construction and building permits for the individual lots after the plat is approved and processed. And then the very final step will come later, which is when the City Commission accepts the road and the infrastructure into the public system. So regarding this project, there has been preliminary area site plan and final area site plan already approved. So this is a review of the final preliminary plat. And there are very few changes from what we've seen before, as you'd expect this late in the process. Pretty much everything on this plat looks good from my review. There are just a few things to draw your attention to. The first is that the applicant has requested that the plat be split into 2 phases, which was not part of the previous approvals. That is okay to do at this stage. As part of that, the lots have been renumbered because you need to start phase 1 with the lower numbers. And so the phasing here, you can see there are 11 lots here that front Marlboro, which is an existing road and it has existing infrastructure in place along the front of the road. And then phase 2 requires the construction of new roads and all new utility infrastructure. So that would come later. There are some components of utilities for this first phase, mainly in the rear of the lots with the stormwater infrastructure. And so some components, and I'm sure Scott will speak to this a little bit more, will be part of phase 1 and phase 2, but they get approved together. The plat gets moved forward as one. And then there are a bunch of easements on this. You see easements in the front yards for public and private utilities, no build, no clearing easements. That's this hashed line along the northernmost lots as well as the easternmost lots. And then there are also easements in the rear of every lot for stormwater infrastructure. And those easements will need to be recorded and then provided back to the city, so we have a copy of those as the project moves forward. And street trees are required, and the developer has provided an escrow to the city of Walker to cover the purchase and installation of those new street trees that you see here, 1 in front of every lot and 2 on the corner lots. So that is pretty much all that I have for you. This project has been reviewed quite extensively, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have at this time.
Thank you, Paula. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Yeah, this has been spread out over several years, so finally getting to this point for the single-family detached on the northern portion. There's no other comment? Mark?
Paula, on 66 or 3, depending on how you read your packet here, right at the top, regulations are met or exceeded by the proposed tentative preliminary plat, including setbacks and minimum lot sizes, with the few exceptions as noted on sheet 1 of 3 in the plan set and allowed within the approved PSAP as PUD benefits. I could not find those exceptions. I'm just curious what they are.
That is an excellent question. I believe that they might be on the final area site plan set. Some of this language I pulled from the previous report from the final area site plan, and that plan document is in very minor ways different from the plat final document, just in terms of what's required to be on there from a legal perspective. If I remember correctly, there were some very minor changes to side yard setbacks, but if you'll bear with me, I can look that up and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, being no other comments, we'll move to City Engineer Scott Connors.
So this is the last time that the Planning Commission gets to review this, but we still do have a very detailed review that goes on at staff level to take a look at the road alignments and utility plans and all that kind of stuff that takes place after this. It actually has begun, and I saw a red line of that already today where our staff brought those in and had some questions. So feel comfortable that if this moves forward, we'll catch a lot of small stuff, the minute stuff that happens at that level. But we're comfortable with the road alignment and the connectivity. There's quite a history to it. You know, it's connected there at Maple Row and at Cooster. And this is consistent with those connections from the preliminary area site plan. So we will work to make those things fit. One thing that's not written in my report that Terry pointed out to me earlier today, it's probably worth noting that there was a pretty extensive discussion about sidewalk on Maple Row, and the city has budgeted money for that. We're working on that. We haven't notified the residents of it yet because we don't have enough information to share with them, but we're working on kind of an expedited field design project that would put sidewalk on Maple Row on one side all the way up to Leonard Street. So that helps to keep the pedestrians off that road. It'll overall be a really nice project for non-motorized movements in that area. So I'll add that to the report here. There's an existing easement on the plan that runs north-south across lots 21 and 4. That's a Kent County Drain Commission easement. That might be kind of difficult to get rid of, and so we want to point that out as, you know, we wouldn't want to get a project like this started without knowing that that was resolved. It could be a month or it could be a year to get that resolved from the legal and paperwork side. So it's important to us to see that resolved before any kind of construction begins. Speaking of thunder and lightning and rain, there is no outlet control shown on the plan for this. We really want to get a good feel for how this pond is going to outlet to the northeast there. One thing that we do on projects like this that might have a little bit of a controversial drainage is that we require a 2 10, 25, and 100-year storm modeling for both before the development, post-develop, or pre-development, and then after the development's in place, post-development. And this is all done on paper, but it helps to show that there's a zero impact. So for example, if they do let's say the 10-year storm, the high water mark is going to get to elevation 740. We want to make sure that after they model the post-development, that high water level is no higher. So again, zero impact. We check all 4 of those storm frequencies, and that should get run by the developer to make sure that we feel comfortable, and they feel comfortable. They're putting their seal and their name on this, that it's not going to get any worse than it is today. Doesn't solve problems from the past. Sometimes it does, or makes them a little bit better, but we want to make sure that we've got that in place. There is a 30-inch water transmission line that runs along the north property line here, east and west across the whole plan sheet. So we have several water transmission lines that run through the city of Walker. They all run into the Grand Rapids system, and then they're put into distribution lines, which is where the actual water comes to the homes and businesses. So these lines are kind of sacred. They're hard to move. In many cases, they're kind of old. We don't want to touch them. But there's a sanitary sewer line that needs to come underneath that line and serve this entire development. So we've made it pretty clear. We want to see the elevations on that in advance, because if they get started out there and then find out that water transmission line is a foot higher, a foot lower than what we think, that's the kind of thing that really causes a lot of trouble, puts everybody in a difficult spot. So we want to see those elevations now in advance, and they can do that again at staff level, just to make sure that some of those critical items are confirmed as viable before the project gets started. And then the last item, just off to the east of the image here, lots 40 to 43, that's at the east cul-de-sac. The drainage from those lots is not captured currently as it's designed within the stormwater system, and then going to the detention pond. So if you can imagine a roof line in there, the front half of the roof line would generally flow to the front and to the sidewalk, and then eventually into the road. Everything from the peak to the back generally flows into those backyards, into a backyard swale. And in this case, that backyard swale is not captured with storm sewer. It looks like it just runs off to the south and then into the east, into Grand Rapids, in a plat called, I think it's the Maynard plat. So we want that to be captured. So we really need to see another catch basin, perhaps at the back property corner for 41 and 42. If there's no way for them to do that, you could require that those roof drains all go to the front, but that's not very popular. And we've done that a few times, and we always have to go back and reaffirm it and require that they do it because it looks ugly. The best thing to do is get the storm sewer over there and capture that water. And this is especially difficult because it goes into a neighboring jurisdiction. You know, we don't want to be just saying, hey, it goes into Grand Rapids, who cares? We're good neighbors. But the other part is that the contours that are shown in the existing apartment complex to the south don't look to be accurate. And we want to get a good feel for that as well, because if we're changing the drainage along the rear of buildings 37 and 39 in the Waterford apartment complex, we want to know what those grades are. We want to know that they're being protected. So that needs to be updated as well. And when we went out and did a field check on that, it showed quite a grade drop across that building 39, but in reality, it's all flat. So it's all been graded, and that stuff should be updated when we're looking at something as critical as an overall drainage plan. So that is it for us in engineering.
Thanks, Scott. Commissioners, Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, this project's going to be phased, 1 through 11 lots. What will those impact? Well, I guess my question really relates the park, the open space, and the stormwater basin. Will that work be delayed until such time as phase 2, or will that be required to be done with phase 1?
Right, that's really the only item that needs to be done for those first 11 lots, because they've already got improved street frontage, they've got sewer laterals and water services, so they're really ready to go with the exception of drainage. And so they'll have to submit some way to do that. My hope would be they'll build the detention pond up front. If they're not ready to build all of it, they could build a smaller portion that is phased, just to get those 11 lots taken care of.
So if hypothetically Phase 2 is never built, we will require that adequate drainage in the basin, even if it's smaller, is complete, so it's a standalone, all of the water issues will be resolved. All of the water issues that relate to the first phase will be resolved.
Exactly. It's like you've done this before.
Yeah.
It's like, because this does happen, right? I mean,
It does.
we've seen developments where Phase 2 just never happens.
Right.
So
And-
we're not going to roll the dice and take the chance on that.
And the same thing would be true if we need easements to service the other portions. We would require those easements as part of Phase 1, even though they're not necessarily required to complete the first 11 lots.
That's correct. We want Phase 1 to stand on its own, just in case.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Tom?
Scott, I have a question on the east side there, those lots 39, 40, or 40, 41, and 42. Talk about potentially connecting the rear area to the existing storm drain or proposed storm drain. Is that feasible? I mean, or not feasible?
Well, we didn't run the numbers on the elevations and things. I'm hoping that the
Yeah.
engineer can respond to that.
Okay, I'll save that then.
If they can't, then we'll look to them to reconfigure that storm sewer and try to find a way to get it lower. If there's some kind of a last resort, we could look at the roof drain option. But again, I don't recommend that for a residential plat. No one's going to want to see that. We've done it successfully in a couple of condos, but when I say successfully, I mean, we had to, get zoning enforcement involved, and we really had to argue, and, for all I know, they could be taken down 10 years later, and
Yeah.
it doesn't behave the same way. But it's a requirement in those, and I don't like to do that, but if we have to, we can come back and consider that. I'm not sure that we need to make a deal like that here, as Tom Bile, who used to be on this board, used to say, we're not here to make a deal. So let's get the storm sewer in the right place.
Okay. Then when the time comes, the applicant could address that question on that east side.
Okay. Paula?
If I may, I found, right where it says in my report, it is the answer to Mark's earlier question regarding the deviations or the PUD benefits. They're down here in this section on page 1 of 3 of the plan set here. You can see where the asterisks are. There are a few changes. There's a few lots. The corner front setbacks, the side street, that secondary front yard is reduced. And a few of that, I believe, yeah, that is the only one on the cul-de-sac. There's also, it's a 30-foot, and that's, so those are the PUD benefits that came with this. It's a few side yard, essentially, setbacks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Okay. Appreciate comments from our staff. At this point, we would like to have a representative of the project on this, project representatives come forward, give us your name and address, and provide us with an introduction from your perspective.
Good evening. My name is John Mayle. I'm with Excel Engineering, 5252 Clyde Park, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm representing the developer. We're the civil surveying engineer on the project. I guess I don't have too much more to say on the planner and the engineer's report. I do know that area on 39 to 42, it does drop off dramatically. So I'm not going to be able to pick up every last bit of that area. We can look at our storm sewer to see if I can maybe pick up a little bit more of that area. We're bringing the storm sewer from there all the way to the pond and then into the outlet, and it's pretty much running at minimum grade. So I don't have a lot of flexibility, but we'll work with the engineering department to satisfy. I know that one of the calculations that I've already looked at with the drain office is, how much area currently goes that way and how much will in the future. And I will make sure that what goes in the future is less than what goes there today. So that's one of the standards that the Kent County Drain Commission requires of us to do. So that, I guess that's as much as I can tell you at this point without getting into the details of the calculations, but so I'm available for any questions.
What, about what do you expect, you build the houses and then people buy them from you, what do you expect the cost would be, roughly a range?
Wow, that I don't. Yeah, they're. Oh, the developers here.
I'll have the party here too. Randy Cucci, Cucci Builders and Developers, 547 Baldwin, Jennison. They're going to be in the 500 to 600, maybe if someone builds a really little bit bigger house in the 700 range. Like the site condos that are being built on Lincoln Lawns and Waterford Village Drive right now. It's the same two builders are jumping into the new phase for us.
Thank you. Rob?
Randy, I'm just curious, the private park and where the basin is, that's along the trail? What is that gonna look like? I mean, is it just gonna be left as, basically as is, you dig out the basin area, or is there gonna be fencing or trees, or just what's the vision?
I think, you know, where the kind of the dotted areas on that plan, those are regulated wetlands, so that we can't touch. Obviously, the pond will be a wet pond. It's got the safety shelf that's going to be required by the drain office in the city. At this point, there's no, fencing plan around that. I think the rest of it will be kind of maintained lawn. At this point, we don't have a lot of landscaping shown, other than there are some existing trees around that we'll be keeping where we're not grading, so.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, the developer at this point? Okay, at this point, this has been advertised as a public hearing, and welcome a motion to open it.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, motion by Scott,
I'll support that.
supported by Pat to open the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. At this point, again, if you could come forward and give us your name and address, and we'll be looking for if your comments can, within a 3-minute time period, please.
Awesome. My name is Mark Hurd. I live at 3518 Sunrise Lane. First of all, thank you so much for serving. I appreciate all that you guys do. So the first developer, I want to talk about the hashtag, which is on the north side of the property. There are a lot of dead trees along that hedgerow, and that is clearly on the golf property, or the golf club property. And it was determined by the prior developer that they would take out all the trees that needed to be taken down. They did take one tree down that is basically right near my property, but there are many other dead ones that need to be dealt with across that whole line. And I'm just kind of curious if there's going to be any requirement of the new developer to follow that.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll take the questions, and then
Okay.
we'll have a discussion back with the applicant
Okay.
to address those.
I have one other suggestion or help with. So where Sunrise and Sunrise Lane and Maple Row connect, on the north side, there's the S curve that goes into the old section if you go north. People park right there, and once we open that up, there's an S curve, and I would recommend we put no parking signs, just so it's easier to go through that area. So, thank you.
Joey Orphis, 683 Westway Drive, Northwest. You kind of answered my question, but I got a little confused when we talked about Phase 1, Phase 2, so it's kind of in line with what I need to ask. Where Lot 1 is currently, that property from the end of Lot 1 to, let's say, the reservoir area, the pond area, is that all going to be part of Phase 1? Because I wasn't sure, you're saying like, we want to make sure that some of the pond is perceivable by Phase 1, or does that wait till Phase 2? And part of the reason why I ask is that currently that area has got trees that have broken and fallen, and we've got grandkids now that are running around over there, and we don't want, I did ask previously in the hearing that, I called the developer and say, could you at least look at those trees that are split down and hanging down so that no child gets hurt under there or whatever. So that's my, main concern with that. Just who's gonna maintain that? If it's Phase 2 and not maintained yet, does Phase 1 person maintain it, developer and so on? And that's basically the main concern. And then obviously you're talking about that sidewalk path that comes from the area of Phase 2 down through the pond front area towards the south, and then it's going to connect to the bike path. My house is right next to that, so I'd like to get an idea of how close that sidewalk might be, 30 feet, 40 feet, 60 feet, whatever. And, not that we can say anything about it, but because we have a fence now, and just want to make sure that we have a little bit of our privacy and put something else up or something like that. And that's all. And thank you, like the gentleman said earlier, thank you for all your service, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pat Laurie, 3500 Sunrise Lane, Walker, Michigan. Just wanted to ask the question, since you guys didn't ask it of the developer, Phase 1 and Phase 2, do we have a time frame as far as Phase 1 and Phase 2? I'm on the end of Phase 2. I'm up at the top part there, but just curious as to what your timing is, because I know we've already been delayed about a year and a half. But, you want to answer or wait? It's up to you guys.
That should be fairly straightforward.
If you have a date, that's all, I was just kind of.
We have a bid for Phase 1 and 2, it's all with one contractor that we're gonna accept, and their deadline is July something of 2026 for the whole thing.
For the whole thing?
We're trying to get the 11 lots, so we don't
Yeah,
stop
I can see
builders
that, yeah.
in the other neighborhoods, so they keep going while we build it out.
Okay. You think you'll start the streets on Phase 2 this summer? That's the plan. I hear you. I hear Scott's on your butt on that one. Just one other thing, because I do live behind lots 32 through 36, and every spring those lots fill up with water. I mean, lots of water. I'm sure once you start, leveling and everything else, you'll probably get it all set. But just wanted to give you guys a heads up. We have a lot of standing water behind lots 32 and 36. The other thing, and I know Scott mentioned this, one of the things that we'd really like is the sidewalk going down Maple Road. And I know Scott had mentioned it's in the works, don't know where that's at. Be nice if we could get that in when Phase 2 is complete. And I don't know if one side is gonna be good. That's gonna be an interesting decision. 2 sides would be better, but I know 2 sides cost more money. There's a lot of nice trees that are gonna have to be cut down for those sidewalks. And then I reiterated what Mark had said as far as a lot of dead trees that are all on the golf course property that the original developer who did the apartment said he was gonna take down. He was gonna get a tree expert to come in and actually decide which ones need to come down and take them down before.
1 minute left.
Okay, gotcha. I'm all set. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm William Stellema, 615 Lincoln Lawns Drive. I have an appeal to both City of Walker and the owner of the property and all of their subcontractors, and for that appeal to share what's been happening with the development on Lincoln Lawns right now. So far, there's only 2 houses that have been developed out of 10, and this is experiences that they may have on Marlboro as they put the first phase in on Marlboro. Starting right off with when they put in the sewer and water hookups, which is all done on Marlboro, but the contractor was not supposed to leave an island of homes that you could not get egress east or north, south, or in Marlboro east or west, and that didn't happen. We had cases where one in particular affecting me and 3 of my neighbors, they dug all the way across the road for 2 hookups and left it. And so for 24 hours, to go one way or the other, we had to drive through a 4 to 6 inch ditch and move the traffic cones. They put traffic cones across it. So that basically created an island of our 4 houses. So if emergency services were to come, they would have to deal with that too. Then starting out with excavation, Lincoln Lawns was a muddy mess. I mean, just an absolute muddy mess. It seems like nobody really cared to do anything about it. And ironically, I saw street sweepers on Waterford Village, where they're also constructing houses, but never saw one on our street. And so all that mud we had to drive through when it was wet. When it was dry, it turned into dust. And so then all that dust was up in the air. The contractors don't carpool. They all drive their own individual vehicles, and they park them haphazardly. And on the corner of Lincoln Lawns and Lawns, they tend to like to crowd.
1 minute left.
They tend to like to crowd the corner there. It's made it very difficult to get in and out. And aside from all the usual stuff with the traffic, with delivery of lumber and concrete, and the concrete trucks staging, getting ready, they block the road a lot, so you can't get past them. That stuff comes and goes, but still, emergency services, when sometimes seconds count. So another thing is my mailbox got hit. Lumber driver delivering lumber hit my mailbox, damaged it, never said a word, drove off. Luckily, Boscraft took care of it. They took care of getting it fixed. They were very nice about it, very accommodating. But it's just, that's our life right now, and constant irritation of contractors turning around in our driveways as opposed to just driving into the street, going left or right to get out of the neighborhood. I mean, that's a small thing, but when it happens all the time, you get kind of irritated about it. So just an appeal to more oversight. That's all. Thank you.
Time.
Thank you.
I'd like to represent the young ladies who they don't want to come up here and just ask this question, so if I may. It's for Janice. They live on 3694 Marlboro. And kind of the same question, when would construction on 1 to 10 start? And I'm assuming July 26th, as soon as possible, would be their answer. And assuming all the driveways, because the access to all of those houses are going to be on Marlboro Street, there's going to be no back access. So just, and then consideration for the traffic and the construction traffic and where it's going to go, same type of situation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Right? Do I hear
Make a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
Motion by Scott, supported by Mark, to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Through this, we'll look to Paula and Scott to maybe fill in some of the blanks here. There are some questions about a dead tree line, and I guess the first question I'd have was, does that dead tree line coincide to the no disturbed area?
From what I heard, it sounds like it is in that no disturb area. If, I don't recall that, again, that was probably part of the original PASP approvals. If there are dead trees to be taken down, that could, most no clear, no build areas allow for that. Removal of dead trees can be a safety concern. and it's intended to create a buffer between the existing neighborhood and the new homes. So things like clearing of dead trees generally are permitted, whether or not that's the responsibility of the future new homeowner or the developer, something for the board to discuss with the applicant.
I might add too that from a historical perspective, because we've got a big turnover on the planning commission here, the developer did talk an awful lot about forest management, I'll call it, helping take down the dead stuff so that the stuff that was going to be preserved could, thrive. But they're gone, as we often see. So a lot of those claims are very accurate.
All right. I guess in that respect, representative from the development team, would you be able to make a statement as far as how you might address that aspect of the project?
I think it's gonna make the most sense to include them in our clearing. I don't think there's a lot of clearing in there, but there is some, and include them in our clearing contract as an extra and get them out of there, because it's not gonna get any better getting them out of there later, so.
Okay. I think it'll probably be helpful, and maybe you do this throughout the project anyway, is to have someone in your development team be a person that, if there's any questions from the neighbors, that they could come directly to you, or second, I guess the other option would be to work through staff, but sometimes more direct conversation is very helpful. So you'd have a willingness to be able to designate someone to do that? Oh, okay, thank you. There's a question about where Lot 1 is in terms of, I don't know if he was talking about the former numbering or the current numbering.
Comments made, that was a question about this area here, and this in particular, this path and its proximity to the existing roads.
Okay. So that's going to be intends to be part of phase 1 then?
Whether the park aspects of this, including this walking path, are part of phase 1 or phase 2, I can't answer, the developer could. But part of the pond would be, as we discussed previously. So this is the area in question.
Okay.
So the phase line that's drawn on the plan there looks to show just those individual lots. That just can't be accurate. It's going to have to include some of the common space as well.
Okay.
To what extent, we're not sure. If they want to go out and build the entire pond first, that'd be great. But they have to give us at least an equal and a fair amount of detention that's functional.
And then there were some questions about staging and phasing of the developer as a individual connections to services, and also it sounds like maybe connections into main lines. Again, as far as that staging goes, I don't know how much interaction there is between the city engineer's office and the developer during that process to address some of the questions about maybe getting people isolated at the end of a day and not having ready access to their homes. Again, a developer, is there a protocol that you usually follow in doing that?
I don't think we have the opportunity for the conflicts. We took care of those last summer when we put the water and sewer services out on Marlboro and Lincoln Lawns. They did wait overnight, for asphalt a couple times in there. I mean, can't get an asphalt contractor in there for us. 10 by 20 patch every day. So they got us in there, they did what they had to get them in there once, and patch them all up. But there really isn't much opportunity for conflict. What is there in the tie-in, John? So sanitary. The sanitary comes from the north?
Sanitary comes from Maple Grove, so, yeah, I don't envision anything being a conflict on Marlboro, because we're really not doing any construction there. All the sidewalk is gonna be done as the homes are constructed, so. As far as, the contractor staging, I think it's gonna be
This is not a back and forth. If you've got some comments for the planning commission, if you've got comments for the planning commission,
Nothing has changed. Our street is egress for all kinds of construction traffic on Lincoln Lawns. And that has never changed, even though those large signs went up while the apartment complex was being built. So that's not a defense.
okay, so noted, thank you.
I probably should point out too, I think you mentioned engineering there, so when these individual lots are going in, 1 through 11, for example, their access is off Marlboro. So
Okay.
it's gonna be rotten. There's gonna be trucks with trusses, there's gonna be concrete mixers, there's gonna be people that need to park that are working on these locations, kind of like there is on Lincoln Lawns now with some of those homes that are going in there. So it's unfortunate, but that's just how the construction works, unfortunately.
Okay. Commissioners, any from the public comments, from the information we've gotten from staff, any things that draw out, any additional questions you have?
I don't know that we have any definitive solution tonight on the drainage on those eastern lots. So I guess there'll be some engineering that will need to occur to figure out what might be workable or not. I guess I would say my suggestion would be to not do anything creative like directing downspouts to the front yard or anything like that as a solution.
And just to follow up on that, I think we can, if we were to move forward, we could defer to the developers and staff to work together to craft a appropriate solution for something like that.
And I believe that the model motion that's been offered would make reference to not only the planning director's comments, but also the city engineer. And I think that provides the kind of direction I think they're looking for as well.
Looking for a motion?
Yeah, if everyone's satisfied, consider a motion, yes.
Okay. Case number 25-006, final preliminary plat review for 3487 Lake Michigan Drive Northwest. Based on the application material provided, I move to recommend approval to the Walker City Commission for the final preliminary plat called Waterford Reserve for a new residential development featuring 52 single-family residential lots on existing and new public streets with public water and sanitary sewer facilities at 3487 Lake Michigan Drive Northwest, subject to the following conditions and based on the findings of fact noted below. Conditions of final preliminary plat recommendation of approval. The applicant shall address all items outlined in the city engineer's report dated June 12, 2025. The applicant shall submit a final acceptance letter from the Kent County Plat Board following to the City Commission's review of the final preliminary plat. The applicant shall submit a draft document for legal review containing plat building restrictions and covenants with language that speaks to the responsibility of co-ownership of any common areas by a homeowners association prior to the City Commission's review of the final preliminary plat. A recorded copy of the restrictions and covenants shall be provided to the city prior to the issuance of any building permits. The applicant shall submit recorded copies of the easements shown on the plan set, including those for public and private utilities, for drainage, and for the no-build, no-clearing area, prior to the issuance of any building permits. The applicant shall submit a set of individual lot grading sheets consistent with the approved grading plan and MBO table, prior to the issuance of any building permits. The applicant shall provide 2 sets of sealed civil engineered plans incorporating the recommended conditions to the Community Development Department prior to the issuance of building or stormwater permits. Additional condition, all dead trees so referenced at tonight's meeting shall be cleared and the developer shall designate a representative for contact for neighbors and city staff regarding this issue.
I'll support that.
Okay, we have a motion by Scott, supported by Pat.
Chairman.
Yes.
Can I propose a friendly amendment?
Yes, you may.
Condition number 1, the applicant shall address all the items, ... I'd be more comfortable with, say, the applicant should address and satisfactorily resolve all of the items. Because otherwise, you can address them and have no consensus, and maybe it's nitpicky, but I'd feel more comfortable with and satisfactorily resolve if the movement and supporter are agreeable.
I'll amend that condition to state the applicant shall address all items outlined in the city engineer's report dated June 12, 2025, to the satisfaction of the city engineer.
Even better.
If I may, one more friendly amendment, or additional
Oh yeah,
condition.
findings of fact. Per this conditional approval, the 52 proposed single-family residential lots will meet the dimensional requirements of RPUD1, low-density residential planned unit development zoning district per section 7.01, schedule of district regulations, and the approved preliminary area site plan and final area site plan. Per this conditional approval, the engineering and infrastructure details will meet the standards of the zoning ordinance, section 18.06, Walker's subdivisions ordinance.
Okay, and Mark had a,
Yes, just to address the one gentleman's concern about the privacy and the connection to the trail. If no one has any objections, I'd like to stipulate that that connection to the trail be as far north as is reasonably possible, given all the other engineering concerns.
okay. Now, that's a question for the motion maker, whether you'd accept that as a,
That's fine, yes, we can add that as a condition.
Robert's rules comes in here someplace. Rob, maybe, or,
Well, the move-in has agreed to it. Does the supporter agree to it?
I support all of that.
Then I think you're good for, I think it's amended, and you're good to go. Call for the vote.
okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in favor of this. We've talked a lot about it. Just a couple incidental things. I don't live far away, and I used to ride my horse along there, and that's a beautiful fence row there, and there's a huge tree right there in Maple Row will come through. I mean, that's a big one, and I think it's an oak. I think that needs to be figured out how old it is and stuff like that, and some pictures taken, and obviously it's going to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Hopefully I avoided the going over the greens when I rode our horses out there.
Hopefully that's the case. All right, any questions for the motion? There being none? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go to case number 25-007. Again, Paula, would you be able to introduce the project, please?
Yes, Chair, I'd be happy to. So as a frame of reference, again, I'll start here. We're down the road from where we just were, down Lake Michigan Drive to the west. We're talking with this site about the Vista 45 mixed-use development going in behind the Meyer and Blaine's, Lake Michigan Drive, with the border to Talmadge Township to the west. The PASP for Vista 45 was approved earlier this year in February. The rezonings were approved by the City Commission, and the applicant has now brought back to the board two components of the project for final area site plan review. Those components are the mixed-use building and the residential apartment complex. So it's kind of hard to see here. Let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit. This is the overall site layout plan. It's a very large site, so these overall plans are at a high level. So this is the mixed-use building. This is the bank and Ferndale here across Lake Michigan Drive, the mixed-use building here. And then this is the residential apartment complex. You can see a series of roads that will be part of this development and would need to be constructed as access for the aspects being discussed tonight. There are other components of this project that were part of the approved PASP. The commercial components, those are not part of tonight's discussion. Those will come back separately for final area site plan review. So looking now at the planning and zoning considerations that I normally bring to you. The zoning ordinance in section 1101F contains a list of the items that need to be included in a final area site plan review. The applicant I'm very appreciative of the applicant and their team for providing a detailed list of all of those requirements and where they can be found on the plan set. If everyone did this, my job would be simpler, and I greatly appreciate that. So thank you. And I believe it also helps the board understand the different aspects that we are reviewing in question. So I'm jumping around here, apologies. The applicant met with the site plan review committee in late May and were provided feedback and submitted updated plans. Those are the plans for discussion tonight. And then another thing that is a component of a final area site plan review is substantial compliance with the previously approved PASP. The applicant also provided a detailed list of all of the changes that have been made. In my opinion, they are quite minor. There is the clubhouse building and pool area that are part of the apartment complex, and also provide the clubhouse and recreation requirements of the mixed-use building. They have been adjusted in a minor fashion. The layout of the building and the location is shifted just a small amount. The same with the location of the dog park and the maintenance building. I believe there were some minor adjustments. You can see a little curve to the future Vista Drive here. That was made to better align with the service road within the Meyer planned unit development behind the bank. Some of the roads were widened in accordance with the preliminary site plan approvals. So those are the things that were changed. And there are a few recommendations in my report for a possible conditional approval motion, and they deal with cross-access easements and maintenance agreements that the city should have in place for this development, with a mix of different uses and a mix of both public and private roads. But from my review, I don't have anything else to share with you. This project was reviewed in great detail before and during the preliminary site plan review and approval. And what you see before you tonight is very closely in line with that, in my opinion. So I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have, but that's my report, short and sweet.
Commissioners, any comments, questions? Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paula or Scott, it seems my memory was that we were going to get input from MDOT on this project, and I didn't see anything in the packet. Has MDOT reviewed, are they comfortable with access, like Michigan Drive and so forth?
They haven't issued the formal permit for the new traffic signal that's proposed, but they are comfortable with this. They've worked through this exhaustively.
So should we condition something on securing the permit from MDOT?
That would be smart.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right, now we'll move to Scott Connors to cover the civil engineering aspect of it.
Similar report from me. We've looked at this for a long time. It might have as much review, if not more, than any other project we've ever done here. We've watched this for so long. Maybe as a quick recap, the north-south road here, LaSalle, is going to be public, but the east-west road and the stuff to the right and left, as you see here, is going to be private. And so that's kind of how we've arrived at a solution here. So as that transitions over to the Goodwill site, where it's a private parking lot, that will be private. As it transitions over to the Meyer site, very similar, that will be private. That helps to work through some of the easement issues that we've had before. The good news is that we have a public ribbon that runs through the middle of this and then connects over to Wilson Avenue. So as we review the details, there are still a lot of details to work out in terms of the road and the roundabouts. We want to make sure that these roundabouts match our design over at Center Drive that we did last year that has been very successful. That's a pattern I think that we want to copy in other places. And so we've asked that be mimicked here. In terms of the right-of-way and just where those lines are going through a roundabout that's half public and half private, we've got some issues to work out there. But those aren't things we need to do publicly at a planning commission setting. So I think if you can give us the latitude to get those things done, we will certainly do that. But they have addressed all of our comments from site plan review, and we think we're at the stage that we can move this to the staff review stage and get going with the utility plans.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Tom?
Would the southern roundabout, Scott, would that also achieve that same standard as Center Point? Is that the idea?
That would be our intention, and so to the south of that is likely to be another public road extension at a future time. So they've got a small piece of road that goes to the south. The idea would be that could be extended further south, and there's been lots of different land uses discussed down there, whether it's townhomes or condos or assisted living. We don't know at this point, but we do know that we want to see a connection all the way to O'Brien at some future point.
Any other comments at this point? Questions? I echo what Scott said as far as the evolution of this project. It's taken a lot of time and effort on behalf of the applicant, their team, as well as the City Hall's team. And I think it's coming to this is a good project. It's a fruit of that. And the detail that's been assigned to it has been quite exceptional, I think, at this juncture. At this point, it's an opportunity for the applicant to come forward as representative as his team to offer any comments and maybe speak, if, among other things, to what Scott said about the design detail, whether you're up for using that design detail that they've used at the other project on Alpine Avenue.
Absolutely. I'm Brandon Simon with Progressive Companies, 1811 4 Mile Road in Grand Rapids, civil engineer representing the developer. Just wanted to talk through a couple things. I think Paul hit on most of the big stuff, but the plan largely looks like it did through PASP. As mentioned, we had tweaked a little bit of building layout. The clubhouse rotated a little bit, and previously we had a drive on the west side of the clubhouse, which we've removed to try to lessen the number of cuts off of that road and reduce some wetland impact on the west side of that drive there. So we saw that as a win for a couple reasons. We did update the bike path material after some discussion in the site plan review committee meeting. Before we had that split concrete and asphalt, and from a maintenance standpoint over the long term, we switched that over to an asphalt trail entirely, so it'll look more like your typical non-motorized trail. There's been some utility adjustments just based on some conversation with City Fire and the City of Grand Rapids, who operates and maintains the public water and sewer through here. Storm design has evolved a little bit as we get going. Our landscape plans are included in this package now, and in the FASP package now we have some lighting that we're working through with the city DDA, namely on the LaSalle Drive for the public street lighting. So that's been included. The road widths again came up at the previous planning commission meeting and the site plan review meeting. So just to clarify, Vista Drive, the east-west private portion, previously we had 11-foot lanes through there. Those have been bumped to 12. And then for the north-south on LaSalle, we had, again, 11-foot lanes. Those have been bumped to 13-foot lanes. And then, as you mentioned, Vista Drive alignment was tweaked slightly. Did just want to note as well, we are working with MDOT, and we do have a formal submittal to make to them for a number of items. There's a stormwater component as well as geometric alignment of the driveway and traffic studies and that type of stuff. So certainly on our radar, and we'll continue to work through that. Other than that, I think that's all I got. I'm happy to answer questions, and we'll accept our reward for the longest PASP and FASP review when you guys are done. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question. Can you confirm that the streets will have curbs throughout? I thought I read that again, but.
They do. The streets, both north-south, LaSalle and Vista, have curb and gutter along the edges. The internal parking areas at this point are Bit Valley gutter and just pavement edge. But the public streets will follow the city standard curb and gutter along the edges. Dimensionally, they're a little bit different from like the traditional commercial street detail, but the curb and gutter is present on the edges.
I have a landscaping question regarding LaSalle Avenue, which I believe is labeled LaSalle Avenue all the way to Standout Crossings, and then the rest is South LaSalle. Am I correct on that?
It is, the entire north-south stretch will have the same road name as we work through that. So from Lake Michigan Drive south all the way to the roundabout would be the same name.
Okay.
If we
It shows
have
here.
dropped an avenue off or something on one of the notes.
Oh, okay,
It will be
okay.
continuous as we move through that.
Your diagram here regarding landscaping along LaSalle Avenue, there's a center median, and it shows trees there. Will there be trees all the way to that second roundabout? That southern roundabout?
Yeah, I will admit, I'm not the landscape architect, I'm doing the civil engineering. If they've got them shown on there, that is our intent at this point. I know there are discussions ongoing with the DDA as far as maintenance of that center island. So as we work through that component, I wouldn't be surprised to see some adjustments there as we continue to work with the DDA on what's acceptable in that center island. But at this point, that's what we're showing.
Thank you.
Yep. There was a pretty good, very good review within this plan as far as what's required of the ordinance. There's aspirational improvements, and there's ones that will meet the ordinance itself. So one of the areas that it touched upon was the overall parking for the site. And it appears that from the preliminary to the final, you've found that there's going to be additional parking on site that
Yes,
perhaps before, more so than before.
Yep, sorry to interrupt. Glad you asked. On the PASP, so that number appeared to go up between the two plans. If you hold them side by side, they look very similar, and I'm sure you're wondering where 70 spaces came from. The PASP did not label the mixed-use component, so we had shown parking up there before on the far northeast corner, wasn't striped and counted. It is now striped and counted on this as we've refined that lot. So that total parking count appears to have went up, where the layout and parking count for the site as a whole has not increased by, I think it was 70 spaces or something in that northeast corner. We're working towards the number from PASP. We just were not counting that previously.
Well, then maybe help me out with, I'll help us out with the math on that.
Yep.
Is it a case where how many total spaces are you providing as compared to what the minimum requirements are?
We're over the minimum by quite a bit. I think, Paula, can you pull up C201? It would be, yeah, probably like page 10-ish.
Apologies for the scanning.
No, you're there.
201.
Yep.
I can
And then
zoom in.
zoom in on that right side parking calcs. I don't have these things memorized.
Yeah, this was not included in detail in my report because they far exceed spaces. So you can see here, the mixed-use component, the commercial aspects need 114 spaces. The residential component of the mixed use needs 29. The apartment complex Here, 105 spaces, so the total required by the ordinance is just under 300, and they show approaching 500 spaces on site.
I guess that's my question, and it, maybe at this juncture, it may seem like it's kind of late in the game, but with a development of this size, I would hope that our parking requirements are reasonable, but in this case, you're providing far more than that, and I guess looking at sustainability for development, how do you explain putting that much more than what the minimum requires?
Yep, so there are a number of spaces, if you can zoom out a little and just into any of the apartment buildings. The apartments are set off the drive area by about 18 feet. So there's built-in space to park in front of those units, so you gain a bunch in front of the apartment. They also have garages. And then just from a use standpoint, the developer has noted that they have a ratio of parking per unit that they typically want on these projects. So that's what we're trying to shoot for, is stuff that they've used and that has worked well in the past. Do you want?
Yeah, so Todd Grass with J Development. On garden style apartments like we have, we'd like to have like 1.5 unit, or 1.5 parking spots per unit. And so that you want, because it sort of goes to bedrooms and people and significant others. We find that that's the count that makes the parking work better. They're not walking, it's also a little bit of the layout. When we did some of the elongating or made it round rather than the long. You don't want people having to walk 4 buildings over to get a parking spot. So we did a lot of intentional layout parking for that. So it is more. I think more parking's better, especially when you're in apartments and people and
One of the things to keep in mind, I think, is with the garage parking in a location like this, it's not always going to hold a car. In fact, many times it's not going to hold a car. It's going to have equipment and storage and things like that. So it may seem a little lofty in the numbers, but we kind of have to trust that some of those spots are just going to go away.
Okay. It's just something that strikes me. I've worked in this field for a number of years, and we've had a tendency in the past to have large parking lots that are rarely used, a small portion of them. And in this case, these are, most of the spaces are proximate to where the buildings are. And it will provide them an opportunity, if they have friends over, they're going to have no problem finding parking. But on the other hand, looking in the long term, it's a lot of pavement out there. So I just offer that not as a critique of it, it's just a head scratch as far as how do we get that good balance.
Yeah, and I would just add, Terry, the way we've got it laid out at this point is that each apartment building has roughly the same number of surface parking spaces as units in front of the building. So to echo Scott's comment, assuming the garage may be in use, there's surface parking available for the tenants there, or for families that have 2 cars, that type of thing. There's a space available for that family in direct proximity to each apartment. So that was the goal, is to try to have a surface space per unit at each building, in addition to the garage parking.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you. Commissioners, any other comments? Inclinations?
I think we have a public hearing.
Oh, that's right.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Support?
Okay, motion by Scott, supported by Jacob to open the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. At this point, anyone in the audience that has any questions or comments?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support again.
Okay, we got a motion, motion by Scott, supported by Jacob to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right. Mark?
Yeah, just jump in real quick. I didn't quite have my thoughts together at the end of the parking. I need to find the drawing with some of the landscaping on it. I don't have a problem with the amount of parking here, but just if we were to riff a bit on what a small reduction would look like. Let's take as an example, it's not actually an apartment building, but right in front of the clubhouse there. Am I reading that? That's on the bottom. Yeah, so the parking lot just south of that. There's that row of trees with parking on either side. Yep, exactly right. If, say, two of those in the middle of that row were to go away and just become green space, is there a larger tree that might be able to go there that would end up maturing and looking very nice in the middle of that lot, providing a lot of shade? I know that square footage matters for drainage and you know, other environmental concerns, but also just thinking about the size of landscaping there. Like I said, just kind of brainstorming. I you know what interesting things might be done involving landscaping if some of these spots not on the edges were to just become these kind of islands.
Is in the mixed use, what is that, is that R3, Paula? RPUD 3. That building has a requirement in the zoning that requires that they use the amenities over by the clubhouse. So all the apartments, all the people in the apartments for the RPUD 3 have to have the amenities of the clubhouse. So we have the parking there for those people to come across and park over there. So that was part of the discussion we had earlier when that got sort of brought up.
I certainly have no intention of conditioning any approval on that. I just, the topic was brought up and it occurred to me. Thank you.
Well, anyone prepared to offer a motion, or are there other concerns?
I can remember when this was an empty driving range, you know, for movies and stuff. I never went to the movies there, but it was that way for a long time. I don't know how many years nothing was done with it. And it was right on a corner like that. And then when Myers came in, things came up like that. I think this is a good project. The fact you don't see anybody complaining about it, it's a huge project. It's got all sorts of little details and everything, which is beyond me, but we've got a staff that kind of takes care of that stuff. I think this is well done and compliment to everybody involved.
Thank you. Jacob, any overall comments on this?
No, I'm pleased with the design as is.
Tom? Scott?
No additional comment.
I'm fine with it.
I'm good. I'm going to propose a third condition regarding MDOT approval, but I think it's good.
Okay. Mark?
Happy with it.
Okay, as I am at this point. So we have a model motion in front of us, so if you're so inclined to offer the motion.
I'll do it so I can add my third.
Okay.
Case 25-007, FASP review for Vista 45 residential components. Based on the application material provided, I make a motion to approve the final area site plan for the mixed-use building and the apartment complex components of the Vista 45 mixed-use village development at 4568, 4620, 4664, and 4684 Lake Michigan Drive Northwest, for JAG Development and Sherritt Group in accordance with the plan set dated 6/4/25, subject to the following conditions and based on the finding of facts noted below. Conditions of final area site plan approval. 1, cross-access easements are recorded for the private drive and for the cross-access between parcel 2 and parcel 3. Copies of the recorded easements must be provided to the Community Development Department prior to the issuance of building permits. Number 2, a maintenance agreement is put in place for the Greenbelt and Boulevard sections of LaSalle Avenue. A copy of the initial maintenance agreement must be provided to the Community Development Department. The maintenance agreement must include that Vista Drive is restriped annually. Number 3, securing all necessary approvals from MDOT, including a permit for a traffic signal. Under the findings of fact, per section 11.02.G.5, number 1, the PUD was described in the final area site plan does meet the standard contained in section 11.02.7.C.7 and meets the other applicable standards for review. Number 2, the final area site plan is in substantial compliance with the previously approved preliminary area site plan consisting of the maps and accompanying written materials. Number 3, the applicant has made provision satisfactory to the Planning Commission to ensure that those open space areas shown on the plan for use by the public or by residents of the development will be or have been irrevocably committed for that purpose. And number 4, the PUD does comply with the uses permitted by the PUD district and any prohibitions of specific uses by the Planning Commission pursuant to section 11.02.C.10.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mark. So we've got a motion by Rob, supported by Mark, to approve, conditionally approve as described here. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Paula.
All right, as we discussed at our last meeting, there will not be a 7/2 Planning Commission meeting, so our next meeting will be on 7/16. Those projects go to the Staff Site Plan Review Committee next week, and I have 4 applications going to that meeting. It's three plan sets, 2 industrial buildings, 1 residential development, and a rezoning request. So put 7/16 on your calendars, and between now and then, enjoy the holiday.
Thank you.
Very good.
Certainly will.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, got a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Rob, supported by Mark to close the meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much.